And welcome to the podcast. It's season 3, episode 4. You may not agree with this,
but
I'm Maris Lowery.
And I'm Eric Thomas.
And we're getting ready to bring you, as we always do, the Raleigh County Report with high school football, college football, and the National Football League. As well as on this podcast, we're going to talk about some of the national broadcasters and see, Eric, if our audience agrees or they don't agree with some of the national play-by-play and analysts in both college and pro that you like or don't like.
Yeah, and I'm really looking forward later on in the show getting into this one because you and I definitely have differing opinions on this, and I'm pretty sure our crowd will agree with me.
Well, we'll see. That's why you say we may not agree with this, and we'll see where the but lands, right?
That's right.
All right. We'll start with the Raleigh County Report as we always do, and it's brought to you by Window World, and it's not too early to start thinking about winterizing your home with great windows, and you need to hook up with Window World. They'll take great care of you.
And be sure to follow us on Warden Broadcast Network, YouTube, like, subscribe, and share. And also, we have a Facebook page, and our face is not on it, I don't guess yet.
Well, if it is, they probably run people away.
But if you want to get on that, please get on our Facebook and like and follow us on that as well.
All right, so we will start with the high school Raleigh County Report as we always do. And I guess, Eric, the best place to start is always at the beginning, right?
Yeah, let's start at the beginning.
And we will start in Class 4A. What a huge win for the Beckley Flying Eagles after dropping that disappointing home loss to Greenbrier East. The way they bounced back, I think it's a credit to the entire coaching staff of Beckley and all the players to go to a place where here recently they hadn't won. I know they hadn't played every year, but Beckley had not beaten Parkersburg South at Parkersburg South since 1982. And Beckley just didn't beat them. They beat them down. They win the game 31-7.
Yeah, and also bouncing back from that game to go on the road, as you stated during our broadcast, having lost that game, that was a big gut punch to the morale of the team, but also to bounce back, to go on the road and not only beat Parkersburg South, but to beat them soundly in a close contest. It was 10-7 going into the third quarter, and they were able to get a couple of defensive touchdowns and really seal the deal on the road. So hats off to the coaching staff to get that team prepared for the game.
There's also a young man that shares the same last name as you, and he had a touchdown, a defensive touchdown. Speaking of A.J. Thomas, and you think about him, or at least most people do. I know he's a good defensive player, but you think about his offensive skills, but he's able to get a touchdown with a fumble recovery in the end zone.
And anytime, you have a young team, and let's face it, the team's growing up, but not a lot of starts under the belt of Gage Price and Gage Burdett, the two guys that handle the ball the most for the Beckley Flying Eagles, and to get a couple of defensive touchdowns and to on the road, that's a big help.
Yeah, Gage Burdett had a scoop and score for a Beckley touchdown. Like I said, they won that game. Now they travel to Bluefield at Mitchell Stadium. And the Bluefield Beavers, after getting hammered by their rival Princeton, they got a big win on the road, beating James Monroe 35-27. So it'll be 2-1 Beckley against 2-1 Bluefield.
Yeah, and Bluefield, a much-needed win for them. Because Bluefield plays a tough schedule, let's face it. Start opening up with Graham. I don't know what classification Graham is, probably double A in
Virginia. It'd probably be closer to triple A, probably in West Virginia.
So, and then you have Princeton, who just moved down from the 4A ranks back down to their triple A. And then you got Beckley, who's a 4A team. So you must win game for Freddie Simon and the boys from Bluefield, and they got it done on the road.
Yeah, and if Bluefield can find a way to upset Beckley, that would be a huge win for Bluefield. Of course, I'm sure Coach Surratt and his staff not taking Bluefield lightly. Beckley's won the last couple of games, but they've been tight.
Yeah, they have been tight, and we expect a barn burner down at Mitchell Stadium. Beckley, if they get a win by 1 point, they'll take that and get out of there. And you and I don't think you broadcast the game maybe, but I remember Beckley only had a 1-win season or a 2-win season one year, and they were able to go down and get an overtime victory at Mitchell Stadium. So those two teams, no matter what the record, they bring out the best in one another.
Yeah, I did broadcast that game during my radio days, and Eric, going back, way back, past 50 years and longer, back when Bluefield was really booming, Bluefield and Beckley were both in the big school category. Now you can see how, since there's 4 classes, how Beckley's 2 classes ahead of Bluefield.
Yeah, and that's all with population, and all areas are losing a lot, but that's another debate. Well, that's another conversation.
That's another
for another show.
Right. All right. Now the game that Eric and I broadcast, go to AAA, and that was Shady. And boy, Shady just kind of got off to a sluggish start. They fell behind big. They lose to Nicholas County 46-16, and now Shady doesn't have time to really lick their wounds there because they're taking on an Oak Hill team. Should be pretty mad too because Oak Hill got beat down by Princeton 56-22.
Yeah, and you know when you give up 56 points that next week is your get right game, and I look for Oak Hill to really come out swinging in this contest, and right now I think this is a game for Shady. They're kind of on the ropes. Their season's kind of hanging in the balance, with the strong win against St. Albans. Didn't perform at very well against James Monroe. Didn't even have a offensive touchdown, and the way that they turned the ball over and did some uncharacteristic things against Nicholas County, which is a sound football team.
Right.
So look for this to be, a good matchup. But Shady better strap up the helmets for this one.
That game will kick off at 7 o'clock. We do believe that will be one of the 2 games from this market, this area in Raleigh County that Video Productions will have, and Bill O'Brien will have that call, and that kicks off at 7. Now we dip into Class AA. Of course, the Independence Patriots have been very consistent in their 3 straight wins. They scored 37, 35, and 35 as they get a big 35-0 win on the road. And now they have to go back on the road again, and you and I will be headed down to Madison. Scott will have that game. Independence against Scott. Scott 1-2. Scott coming off a win over the weekend, and it'll be Independence 3-0.
And this will be another stern, just road test for this Independence team. And I like the way Coach Lilly, like we said, not dodging anyone. It's hard for him to get 10 games in a season, so he's had to do some, being the athletic director, do some some unconventional scheduling. But look for this. I'm excited to go do this one. This will be our first actual road game that we've done, for the Raleigh County report and our tour. So I'm anxious to go to Madison. It'll be my first time there. I'm sure the whole town will be out to see the Patriots arrive.
Yeah, I've been to Madison before, but I've never called a game at Scott. So all my years of broadcasting will be my first game calling a game at Scott. And if you remember, Eric, we did the game at Coal City last year, and Independence got off to a big lead, and they had to hold them off at the very end to hang on and beat Scott last year.
A lot of ebbs and flows in that game. And Scott probably thinks that Independence got away with one, up Coal City last year. So I'm excited to do this contest.
Also in Class AA, shout out to the Liberty Raiders. What a huge win for Coach Workman and his team as they were able to beat Greenbrier West 27-14. So they start the season with 3 straight home games, and they were able to win 1. Of course, Doddridge is really good, and James Monroe is really good. And those are 2 playoff teams. And not to say that Greenbrier West won't be a playoff team in single A, but that's a huge win for the Liberty program.
That is, because that Greenbrier West program is very good. And I have to give a shout out to one of the coaches, Jared Robertson. He was gracious to send me some stats, up-to-date stats of the game. I mean, Liberty, this game was closely contested game. Final score is 27-14, so Liberty battled, but they really rushed the ball, and he said he was concerned with Liberty's size. And they only have 30 players, but their offensive line is pretty big, so they were able to run the ball efficiently against Greenbrier West. Greenbrier West had, I think, 3 touchdowns called back for procedures. So hats off to Liberty getting a big win against the Cavaliers.
Yeah, I got to correct myself. I said they played James Monroe. They actually played Pikeview. They lost to Pikeview. They played James Monroe this week.
Yes.
I was looking at my notes and just misspoke. We're allowed to do that. People can agree and not agree,
that's
right?
But that's right.
So Liberty, their first road test, 1-2, they'll play James Monroe, who are a little angry themselves after losing to Bluefield.
Yeah, and this is a James Monroe team coming off of a high, with their early season win over Williamstown. This is one of those things where Liberty, you'll have to be ready. You're coming off that good win, but you're going. Are they on the road? Did you say
this
on the
game
road?
is at James Monroe?
So this is the first time away
this is
from
first
home.
Road game, yes.
So you go anytime you go to Lynn's side, you're going to be in for a heck of a ball game.
And of course, we also go around the state and try to look at some of the key other matchups. And when I was doing this, Eric, I thought, well, the key matchup in AAA is basically, especially what's conducive to our market, our area, is Oak Hill at Shady, and also in AA, Independence and Scott, and Liberty and James Monroe. Really didn't find anything in single A, but what I found intriguing in 4A is a battle of Parkersburg, and both these teams really need a win. Parkersburg South 0-3 after the loss to Beckley take on the Big Reds of Parkersburg, who are 1-2. So both teams are under 500, and both teams really need a win.
Yeah, uncharacteristic for both of those teams that have a losing record. And I think Parkersburg is coming off of what they consider kind of an upset. I think they were on the road and beat Hurricane, and
right.
And it's funny. caught the end of the Beckley broadcast, and you could tell that they were pointing towards Parkersburg. Now that they need to get that Beckley loss out of their system, and that's always a battle because we know this for a fact. South doesn't like Parkersburg, and Parkersburg doesn't like South.
Yeah, and it's split right down the middle in the city of Parkersburg. And like I said, both teams are struggling a little bit. South doesn't have a win yet. They've got a combined 1-5 record. So this will be a heated game. And this is a rivalry. Most rivalry games are normally played at the end of the year. They play this one here on the front end of the year.
That's good too because
good
weather, and both. And this one matters. It matters a lot, but this one is a big one because with the win, either one can be right back in the playoff. Talks for later on in the year in 4A.
So we're looking forward to the high school. It's hard to believe it's going to be week 4 this week. And once again, Eric and we will be down in Madison, Scott. We'll have the Independent Scott game on Video Productions that will air at 6:30. That will kick off at 7 o'clock. And I'm with you, partner. I'm really looking forward to it. And, of course, Eric's supposed to map out the way of how to get there. I'm sure he's already done it. But if he needs help, I'm sure the producer and director of the Warden Broadcast Network will point him in the right direction. By the way, we need to do what?
You need to subscribe, and share Warden Broadcast Network on YouTube, and also follow us on our Facebook page. We'd look forward to you guys. We need some more subscribers, so come on and subscribe and like us.
Help us out a little bit. And also, if you have any questions or comments or anything of Eric and you can post them in the comment section, and Eric and I will do our best. Actually, not do our best. We will do it. That is our best by answering it. And then when we get into the segment, national broadcasters, both college and pro, that you may like, you may not like, you can tell that you agree with me and you don't agree with Eric. Because he's going to say the same thing. Oh, he's going to say you agree with him and not agree with me.
Yes,
but that's what the podcast is. But it just shows you that we don't agree on everything, but we agree on a lot.
That's right. We do agree on a lot, but we do have our differences.
We do have our differences, as that's the way the world should be, right? Everybody can't be the same thing with everything,
That's right, and we do it with it's a lot of fun disagree with you and tell you you're wrong.
Yeah, I know. I'm sure it is. But also, I'm sure the producer and director of the Warden tells Eric he's wrong.
Yeah,
but anyway.
So I got to win somewhere.
Yeah, I get it. All right, our next segment will be college football, and this will be brought to you by Pasquale's Italian Restaurant. Now, if you're not into Italian, if you go to Pasquale's, you will be. But if you're not, they have other great, delicious foods, sandwiches, salads, seafood. Also, if you're wanting to plan a party, birthday party, anniversary, whatever the case may be, catering parties, you can dial them up at 304-255-5253, and they'll take great care of you. All right, college football, we'll save West Virginia and Marshall for last. There were some great games this week. The overtime thriller of Georgia beating Tennessee. Looked like Tennessee was going to break the streak. Tennessee had not beaten Georgia since 2016, and they had them, and then they didn't.
They didn't, and that's championship pedigree, though. The Georgia Bulldogs, the game's not over, never out of it. Defense came up big, one of those games where I was kind of pulling for Tennessee. They need one of the, they need, feather in the cap, although they made the playoffs last year, so it's not like they're that downtrodden, but it was just one of those games I just had a little interest in seeing. I wanted the Volunteers to win it.
Also, Ohio, the team that beat West Virginia a week ago, went to Columbus, and they were battling Ohio State for a while before Ohio State pulled it out. And, of course, the longer the game goes, the talent level is going to take over. But Ohio University, the Bobcats, they fought in there and hung there for a little while, but like I said, just too many players on Ohio State side.
But that also, and I said this, so off the air, I told him everybody was up in arms. WVU had their chances, but I said, don't sleep on this Ohio team. It's not like it was an also-ran. That team is very good, very capable. I mean, to go into Columbus and to play a close game, which was a 35-point spread, by the way.
Right.
35. I took that all day long, but
and Ohio covered that.
And Ohio hung in there and covered it.
And the thing about it, that's why I knew Ohio was really going to be up for West Virginia, because it was squeezed between two Big Ten teams, Rutgers, that they lost 34-31, and Ohio State. So Ohio's like, we got West Virginia at home. We got to win this game so we don't start 0-3.
And that was one of those games where it was before the Pitt game for West Virginia, so hard to get those kids to focus when you have that game on the horizon. And you can say what you want. When people see Mac beside a team's name, they just think it's automatic victory, and that's not the case anymore.
In Oklahoma, they look to be back on track. They crushed Temple in the city of brotherly love. They beat them down. I think it was 45-3, but it was a lot to a little.
Yeah, but it's Temple. Move on.
Well, I know, but I do think Oklahoma is much better.
They are.
I think they found them a quarterback, and I think Oklahoma is much, much better.
But it's Temple.
That is true. But everybody's got to play one like that. Well, we do have to discuss Notre Dame and Texas A&M.
Yeah,
As
we
painful
do.
as this is, we have to discuss it. And I watched the Marcus Freeman presser after the game, and then watch his presser for this weekend for Purdue. And, it just comes down to a play here or there. Notre Dame has lost to two really good teams by a total of 4 points. But when you don't make enough plays, that's what happens. And even though the fact that they gave up 41, they were still maybe a play away where they still could have won the game.
Yeah, and it's one thing a lot of people say, well, they should be a lot better defensively, but they had a lot. They lost a lot of NFL talent off of that defense. A lot of those guys that left NFL caliber, players, and everybody's like, well, they got 5-star, but you still have to develop, and those kids have to get ready for that environment. And don't forget, those other teams have 5-star players too.
Yeah, Texas A&M.
You're going to get their best lick, but it did shock me that Notre Dame ended up losing that game.
Yeah, and the way they lost it too. Of course, Notre Dame's got a new defensive coordinator this year as Al Golden went to the NFL to the Bengals. But you're right, both Miami and Texas A&M, is the last time I looked, they still give scholarships and they still have NIL deals for their players too.
And plenty of money at Texas A&M.
Yeah. All right, so now we're going to get into some of the key games, and we will definitely get to West Virginia and Marshall. We'll save that for the end of this segment. And some of the intriguing games this week is Auburn and Oklahoma. And now that Oklahoma's a part of the Southeastern Conference, you get these type of games early in the season. This game will be played at Norman. And I think Oklahoma, like I said, I think they're kind of sleeper, a little under the radar when the season started. But I think after watching them a couple times, I think they got a pretty good team.
Yeah, and I think they'll handle business with Auburn coming into town. Oklahoma, like as you said, I think this is one of their better teams. And once you get into the SEC, it's not the Big 12 anymore. Not to knock the Big 12, but they knew there were certain games where they could put a W in.
They had the advantage.
But now, even with the Auburns of the world, the SEC says they can take any one of their teams and go into any other venue probably and have a chance to win. But I still like Oklahoma in this contest.
And then we have Michigan and Nebraska. Nebraska's undefeated. Michigan's a slight favorite in this game. The game's at Lincoln, and that should make for a very exciting game.
Yeah, and I think this is a must-win for Matt Rule because he's got to start walking the walk. Coming back from the pros to Nebraska, all the resources they have and all that. It's time for him to win one of these big games, especially at home. Yeah. And this is one, if he really wants to get up in the upper echelon, the level in the Big Ten, I think he needs this win.
And I would agree with that because I think if you're really going to make Nebraska football good and going to get back to where maybe the glory days, maybe just beating Michigan is not going to do it, but that's a step in that direction.
But it's a stepping stone, and he needs the W.
All right, and I tell you another team that needs a W, and that's Florida, and they've got to go take on their rival Miami in a night game down in Miami. And Miami right now has got it rolling as they really took care of business on Saturday over South Florida.
That one kind of shocked me. I thought South Florida, it wasn't really a game. It wasn't. They handled business. But here's what you can't do if you're Miami. Just because South Florida went and beat Florida doesn't mean that you can beat Florida, because Florida's a wounded team right now. They're fighting. They might not have another. They haven't even gotten to SEC play yet. No. So you need this out of conference.
Well, they had one. They played LSU over the weekend and lost 4.
Okay,
that was their first Southeastern Conference game.
But the thick of the schedule.
Right.
So this is pretty much a must-win for Florida.
Yeah, and when these two teams play, a lot of these players on each team know one another well. They played against each other in high school. Some of them are related. I mean, this is going to be a big game. And you're right. Even though Florida has struggled, they've lost 2 games. I think Miami will win the game, but it would not shock me if Florida was able to beat them.
Yeah, that wouldn't shock me at all. So, but I think the coaches will have the ear of the players. Now, if they can get this, they get it rolling. Miami's going to look to be a major player in the playoffs this year.
And here's a game that kind of intrigues me a little bit between 2 undefeated teams. Illinois ranked in the top 10, and boy, you don't hardly ever hear say that. Illinois ranked in the top 10. They're on the road at Indiana, who was the darling last year that made it to the playoffs.
Yeah, and this is a game. Who was that? Brian, the guy that used to coach Wisconsin, went to the SEC, went to Arkansas, back in the Big Ten, so he knows how to recruit players for the Big Ten. I think that he has this Illinois program rolling. But this is one of those games you don't want to go to Indiana half-stepping, because those guys, they get coached up. And I think that will be an exciting contest this week.
Yeah, it's a night game, a 7:30 kickoff, a night game there at Indiana. So that ought to be a battle, the 2 eyes, Illinois and Indiana. And then this game, I put this down, Eric, because this kind of intrigued me, because these teams are kind of flying under the radar. Both teams are undefeated right now, but they're just now getting the meat of their schedule. Michigan State at Southern California. USC is 3-0. They had like a 2.5 hour lightning delay at Purdue. And they beat Purdue. Michigan State's undefeated. Both teams trying to get back to the national promise. Like I said, this game's kind of hidden off the path a little bit, off the radar. But I find this very intriguing.
Yeah, it's going to be a good contest, but you look for USC. I think they'll defend, their home field. Michigan State, I think just right now, I think USC has a little more firepower.
All right, now we got to dive into the WVU game. I know you were in Morgantown. I watched the game on TV. The Mountaineers and Pitt, their arch rival. Man, that game had a lot of emotions. The pendulum swung both ways. Looked like West Virginia had them. Then looked like Pitt had them. Then West Virginia comes back. They get the last drive. It goes to overtime, and West Virginia pulls it out. And boy, that's something that Coach Rodriguez, the program, really needed.
Yeah, and I saw something that really intrigued me today. This was the biggest crowd that West Virginia's had since 2000 when Miami came to town. It was 62, 63, almost 63,000 people. And I'm going to tell you, we went up there. We just wanted to be in the environment. But I'm so glad my daughter got to go to the game. She's really big into it. I'm going to tell the story about her. And we actually were eating after the game yesterday. And she just was watching all the highlights, and she was overcome with emotion. And I looked at her and I said, "What are you?" She was crying. She said, "What are these called?" I said, "Those are tears of joy." I said, "Now you're a true West Virginia fan," because she said it was us against them. Nobody thought we had a chance, and nobody left there. Soon when the game hit zeros and they start singing "Country Road, Sweet Caroline," and she took a panoramic of it. It'll give you chills. Yeah. It was loud. It was everything a college environment should be.
Well, that shows you how invested now your daughter Lexi has become in with it, and that's what fans are. And this is their biggest game. Yeah, they've got a lot of other games on their schedule, but for West Virginia to beat Pitt and that's their biggest one.
And the thing is, it brings out the best in the fans on both sides because, and what I mean by that, they show their disdain for one another. They don't.
Yeah, they don't like each other.
They don't. And I'm going to tell you, both coaches during the week, Narduzzi, whatever his name. I almost said the name. I actually called him. I was calling him something else. But he was saying that WV was trying to dodge him, and they didn't want to field this schedule until they don't play until 2029 now. Right. And then after the game, Coach Rod was like, "Did you see how many players got hurt? I'm going to go check on them. Or are they over at the hospital? They're in the medical tent." I mean, it was great to see.
Well, Pitt and Notre Dame play November the 15th, and Pitt and Narduzzi's always fussing about Notre Dame about something. So at least he could leave Notre Dame alone for this week and focus on West Virginia. But one of the things, one thing that I seldom do, and that's try to, Coach, I said, anybody who's won one game has won one more than I have. And as I'm watching it, I really didn't understand Rodriguez making the quarterback change. They played 3 quarterbacks. The broadcast said he wanted to play 5, but he ended up playing 3. And I really believe that had not put Marco back in the game, West Virginia would not have won that game.
So I actually looked into that because we talked about this, and this is where I'm going to lean to Coach Rod, what his thinking was. He did it after the half, and he said he wanted to get the other quarterback had legs, like on some of his RPO plays where he had a chance where those linebackers would have to honor that. And he said that even just putting him in, he said he led us to a touchdown. They scored a touchdown with him in there. And also, but he also threw two interceptions. Yeah. But he said his defense was flying around and playing. Out for those 2 interceptions, they only gave up 6 points.
Right.
So it kept them in it. And so like you said, he's won way more games than me, but I actually thought it changed the complexity of the game. But in the big picture, you have to understand the kind of leader that Nico Marco is, because he wasn't over there pouting. He was over there waiting to get back in the game and lead them to victory.
Yeah, that's so kind of unconventional to do what Coach Rodriguez did.
Unconventional.
But at the end, they got the win. Now the question I pose to you is, with that big win, now they got to go on the road and play a good Kansas team who's coming off a loss and a bye, and they'll play that at 6:00 at Kansas.
Okay, so I'm going to answer this question because we're going to get in our debate for our followers before we wrap the show up.
Okay.
So this is going to be a tough atmosphere, but I think when you have a team that's still growing, I don't care about the bye. You just take care of business. Look, so sometimes teams can come in rusty and where you've played and you're battle tested. I don't think there's a slight edge there. I think Coach Rod wants to get as many snaps and get his team going as much as possible. But I also checked their schedule. Listen to this one, folks. 5 games in the Big 12. Our schedule, we're WVU plays a team coming off their bye week.
Is that right?
Come on, man. That's
Well-
why. That's how they do us.
Well,
Come
I
on.
I can speak to this because this happened 2 years ago. Notre Dame had 7 straight games where they played a team coming off.
I mean, that's not
So-
favorable for you. I mean, how does that
no,
happen?
No, but I'm just saying I'm agreeing, but no, I don't think it really matters. I'm with you. I don't think it matters. I think if I were looking at West Virginia, I would think beating your rival, the emotional win, can you get that emotionally invested again when you go on the road with the team? I think that would be their biggest their biggest issue.
Yeah, but I think also too, this can catapult. A lot of guys made plays late. And when you got that good feeling, man, you're ready to go. You're ready to rock and roll. Everything is better this week in Morgantown.
Well, when you win.
Cafeteria food,
Everything when you win.
I mean, people patting them on their backs. I mean, it's good when you win.
I haven't seen the line on this game, and I'm going to guess that Kansas is probably at least a touchdown favorite in this game.
Okay, yeah, probably so.
Have you seen the line? I
No, I haven't. Checked.
I'm guessing. I'm just guessing here. 7 points.
Probably so.
Probably so. We'll see how that works
so,
out.
So here's where the big debate for us is. Followers, I'm going to lead into this because he has a different take. When you watch a WVU game, do you agree or disagree with me? I think the national announcers get way too excited for the other team. They always, when they score, it's like, they're yelling and screaming. When we score, I don't think they have the same enthusiasm.
Well, I guess because I'm not invested as a fan is a reason I don't see it that way. Also, I know a lot of people that watch West Virginia games say they don't like Sean McDonough. I think he's one of the best out there, and I think him and his partner Greg from Alabama, the quarterback McElroy. I think they're one of the best college teams out there, and I think they're right across the board. And they've called all the Notre Dame playoff games last year. They've called other games. I've heard them not just with Notre Dame. I've heard them with other teams. I know Sean McDonough has done Mountaineer games. I just think that when you're a national broadcaster, you have no interest. I think you're right down the middle for the biggest part.
Yeah, but I'm with most of the WVU fans. I just think it's a little different the way it's called.
Well, like I said, that's why you can agree with this or not agree with this, and that's the name of the podcast.
But I'm right.
Well, anyway, that's for debate. All right, now, you know what? Eric talked about how happy things were in Morgantown. They're probably equally as happy in Huntington because Marshall able to get their first win as they beat Eastern Kentucky 38-7, and now they go into a bye week with that win.
Yeah, and it was a good win, and I think they settled down a little offensively. You know, I told you I thought the offensive continuity was not good, but I have to send a shout out to my man Braden Ward. He had 4 solo tackles, big defensive end for Marshall, and 1.5 sacks. So on the year, he has 2.5 sacks and all kinds of quarterback hurries. So I think he's coming into his own.
The one thing we want to mention too, if you hadn't heard, maybe you have by now, Virginia Tech, of course, they fired their coach yesterday. They fired Brent Fry. He's 0-3, and at home, they ended up losing Brent Fry.
Cares.
Well, anyway, we're here to report the news, not make the news. So I know Eric doesn't like Virginia Tech, but the point I'm making, they were getting hammered at home by Old Dominion. And at one point, it's 45-7. It ended up 45-26. So he starts the season, did Virginia Tech and Fry 0-3. And through his tenure in the 3 years there, he was 8 games under 500, 16-24.
Hey, you and I talked about it. We figured he was going to be gone.
I thought he might survive a little later, but after the beat down to Old Dominion, I was not surprised. And also, the guy at UCLA, Foster, he got
I knew he was going after. He should have been fired after his opening press conference. He was not a good fit.
All right, so before we go to the NFL, we need to do what?
You need to like, share, and subscribe. Warden Broadcast Network on YouTube, and follow us on Facebook.
All right, now we're going to head to the National Football League. And before we get into the National Football League, which is brought to you by Modley's Plumbing and Heating, you can dial up Modley's at 304-253-HELP. Let's talk about some of the NFL broadcasters. I know a lot of people claim that maybe Joe Buck and Troy Aikman are the top, but I'll tell you what, I really like Mike Tirico. I'm not as big a fan as Chris Collinsworth, but I think Mike Tirico is as good as anybody in the business.
I think Mike Tirico is the most versatile out there. I mean, I've seen him on Olympic calls. I mean, he calls
basketball.
He is steady.
I haven't heard him on baseball. I'm sure he'd be good at it.
Yeah, I guarantee it. Yeah, I think you're right. He is smooth. But I give Joe Buck his credit. But I like Tirico as far as being smooth. I like him.
You and I watched the Dallas game, and that was one of the many exciting games yesterday in the National Football League on Sunday. And I like that booth Joe Davis and Greg Olson. And plus, I don't know, a lot of people may not like Tom Brady, didn't like him as a player, don't like him as a broadcaster. I think Burkhardt and Brady are as good as it
Oh
gets.
yeah, man. It's just easy for Brady because he's just breaking down what he knows and he does it, and he doesn't make you feel like you're not football smart.
Right, he's not talking over you.
He's not talking over
Right.
you. He's explaining, and a lot of people don't like his antics, but I'm a Tony Romo fan. Romo gets a little wild, but Romo is really good as far as his analysis.
So how about the great games? Of course, Eric, you were watching the Dallas New York Football Giant game with me, and you were pacing and sweating, and you probably lost 15 pounds during the game. And Dallas finds a way, and we talk about their kicker all the time. Aubrey,
Wow.
what a weapon that Dallas has when they get to midfield, and maybe not even cross midfield, they're in field goal range.
Yeah, and I'll never forget when they went up, up 37-34, and I looked at you and I said, "Well, it's not over till it's over." You said, "Especially with that
With
kicker,
the kicker they got.
and I said, "Man, all we need to do is get to the 50."
Right.
And then once we got past that, I was like, yeah, I think it's a tie ball game." And he hit it from 65. It could have been. It was good from 70. 64 officially. I
And a
think.
nice bounce back win for Dallas after losing the opening game to Philadelphia, because there was times through that game it looked like all was lost for Dallas, and they were getting beat on the deep ball by Russell Wilson, but yet they still found a way to come back and win the game. in
Yeah,
overtime.
not making excuses, and I followed Dallas. Everybody's like blaming the pass rush, but Russell Wilson was just throwing the moon ball, and it was all on the defensive backs. They were just they were not in where they should be. Okay, they were bad defensively in the secondary.
So you got to tell me, what's the moon ball? I don't think I've ever
You
heard
said,
of it.
hey, that's what he
described
calls it. I took it from him.
Well, I
He
guess
said,
the way he
take
throws it
throw
so
up.
far up in the air,
Yeah,
throw it up,
comes
and they go
in there.
get it.
It's the moon ball.
And also, we were watching the Seattle-Pittsburgh Steelers game, and something crazy. In fact, this is only the fourth time that this has happened in the National Football League since 1925, when Seattle kicked off, and the guy from Pittsburgh, the ball hit him in his hands, and he just walked off and didn't even hustle, and the ball went to the end zone, and Seattle recovered it for a touchdown. That's only the fourth time that's happened since 1925 in the NFL. And I don't know if Mike Tomlin's going to do, but I think that young man would find himself cut, because I think, and it wasn't the fact that he missed the ball, but his just lack of effort.
Yeah, his effort to go get it, and he had to see Seattle knew instantly they were running after it. Then he just turned around and looked, and touchdown the other way.
Well, the something that you even made the comment while we were watching, he had to know that he hit it.
He
He
had
had his
to.
hands up like
His
that.
hands
The ball
moved.
went right off his hands.
Yeah.
So he had to know that he touched it. And he just said, the heck with it, and just walked off. And then they were trying to console. I think they were telling him, it's nice knowing you. I think you're going to get cut. I mean, that just wasn't a good play. And then, of course, we had the Super Bowl rematch, Philadelphia and Kansas City. And actually, that game was a little closer. Kansas City could have won and played that
Something uncharacteristic.
That Kelsey going in to take the lead. The ball hit him right in the hands. He juggled it. Philadelphia gets an interception and back the other way.
There's a backbreaker, and and we talked about this. The tides have turned on Kansas City right now. They're 0-2. And when they were Super Bowl defending Super Bowl champions, they got all the breaks. Everybody needs to know they won 15 games last year, and half of them were
right at the end.
So now it's Philly's turn. They're getting all the breaks. On the tush push, they jumped off sides twice, and we saw it.
Right.
Jumped off sides, but ref swat. They said the Super Bowl champs, we're going to give them the calls. Not saying they're giving it to them, but it's changed now.
Right, and a lot of people that complained Kansas City was getting the calls, and I know a lot of people not feeling sorry for the Chiefs.
Not at all, but I think they still have the talent to dig out of this.
And the main thing is, even though they're 0-2, you just got to get in. And we saw that when they won the Super Bowl a couple years ago, that they
went on the road.
Yeah, they beat Miami at home, then they went on the road and beat Buffalo and Baltimore, and then they beat the 49ers again in the Super Bowl.
I mean, they went on the road and won the Super Bowl. But I still look for them to be in the playoff picture.
Yeah, and injury is a big part of everything, and we're finding out as we're doing this podcast. Of course, Joe Burrow is probably the biggest name that got that injured, and not only injured, but he's going to be out for maybe 3 months, maybe the rest of the season. That really changes the dynamic for Cincinnati.
Yeah, it does. And now everybody was like, Browning came in and did well. I said, yeah, but once he's a backup for a reason, okay?
Yeah.
He's a backup for a reason. And it takes a lot away from that offense, the way Joe Burrow operates.
Yeah, and also a report came out on Monday that Jaden Daniels not sure of what his availability will be for the Raiders on Sunday.
It's questionable, actually.
Well, as I said, they're not sure of that, but they have an adequate backup, I think, and also in a Heisman Trophy winner and a guy that's been in the NFL. And His name is just slipped my mind right now.
I remember he was a Heisman winner.
Yeah, he played at Oregon. Yeah. Mariota.
Yeah,
Marcus Mariota.
There it is.
Yeah, it just slipped my mind. So anyway, we'll see how that works out. And then, of course, Minnesota's quarterback in the Sunday night game, they got beat down by the Dirty Birds, doing the Dirty Bird. And the Dirty Birds flew all over McCarthy.
Yeah.
And now he may be out maybe 2 to 4 to 6
Yeah,
weeks.
a lot of injuries early on. And, you know, that's the life in the NFL. You know, you just next man up, and you see what happens. They all get paid. They all on a roster for a reason.
All right, before we dive into a couple of games we're going to look at for this week and our barking dog,
Yes.
we have to do what, Eric?
You have to like, share, subscribe, Warden Broadcast Network on YouTube, and find us on Facebook as well.
And also, you can make comments, and you subscribe, and you make comments. Also, there's a notification bell that so you'll know when these podcasts come up.
Turn on the notifications.
Yes, and also, like I said, if you have a comment, a question for Eric and I, you can put it in the comment space below. All right, now this week's games, a big game. You got two undefeated teams, the Rams and Philadelphia, both 2-0. Game at Philly, and that was a playoff game where the Rams almost beat Philadelphia last
You
year.
took the words right out of my mouth. A lot of these early matchups have been playoff rematches.
Right.
And you and I watched the playoff game together. Had not it been for Jalen Carter, the big defensive lineman, he saved the day because the Rams were driving to win the game.
Right.
They were going to
In the snow.
In the snow. They were going to shock the world. And I think that was my team. If you can remember early that we picked the team who you thought might play in the championship game or
Right.
of the conference. The Rams are my pick based on that young defensive front. And yours is looking real good now, but that's a whole nother story. But
Right.
this is going to be a great contest.
All right, now we got to talk about the Dallas-Chicago game. That's the late game on Sunday, or one of a couple late games. But Dallas with that big win. The Bears fall to 0-2. They gave up 52 points yesterday to Detroit. So the Bears 0-2 at home against the Cowboys 1-1.
Yeah, and this is being a Cowboy fan. This is the typical game that I'm scared of. They go to Chicago after winning at home. They could lay an egg.
And
They
you know,
really
Dallas
could.
is a road favorite in this game.
Yes, but they could lay an egg. It would not surprise me if they laid an egg.
And another big game of two teams that are undefeated, the Arizona Cardinals, they'll take on San Francisco. San Francisco able to beat New Orleans on the road without Purdy, without some of their other. Of course, they have Kittle down. They had They had a lot of guys missing, and now they say Purdy might miss 2-3 more weeks. So they got, I think, an adequate backup in Mac Jones.
Oh, they do. Former first rounder. But this is a game where Arizona always matches up with San Francisco,
well.
regardless.
Yeah.
So this is I think Arizona could go in there and win that game.
Yeah,
It
this
would
is
not
definitely
shock
not a
me.
gimme for
Would
San
not shock
Francisco.
me.
Their home opener, by the way, the Super Bowl will be played on
Yeah.
49ers home field.
Definitely will.
And then, of course, the Sunday night game is Kansas City 0-2 at the New York Football Giants, who are 0-2. So one team's going to go 0-3, and the Chiefs are a touchdown favorite on the road.
I think the Chiefs can get healthy on, especially the way the Giants lost last week.
Yeah.
They had, and the penalties. It was a penalty fest, and the thing was they were all legit flags.
Yeah, and that first drive, I think the Giants had like 7 or 8. They had a
penalties.
65-yard kickoff return to start the game, penalty,
back.
and then they had one backup lineman. He got like 3 or 4 straight penalties.
Yes, I mean it was tough sledding for the Giants, man.
As we wind it down, we'll talk about the Monday night game next Monday night. I think this will be a great game. Detroit and Baltimore. Baltimore 2-0. Detroit 1-1. Baltimore really crushed Detroit up there in Baltimore a couple of years ago. That's the Monday night game. That's a very intriguing game.
Yeah, and that's a tough place to play though. Night game in Baltimore. Those fans are. But if I think there's a team that's equipped to go in there and win, it's Detroit. Everybody, they're not. Their demise was exaggerated. The Green Bay Packers are really good, okay? This just in, they're really good. They lost to the Packers, but don't be shocked. Don't be shocked if they go in there and beat the Baltimore Ravens.
And this gets us to our final segment, and perhaps one of the most fun segments.
Yes.
We call it, I guess, the Tuck segment, because that's the name of your dog.
And they
The
probably seen him in
barking
this.
dog. He was probably in and out of the camera shot.
He loves the camera, man.
Yes.
He loves it.
Where's he get that from?
I don't know. Here he comes.
Here he comes.
Right on
He's
cue.
going to get right in between us. Come on in here,
Right
son.
on cue.
This
This
is
is
a
the
great
barking
segment.
dog.
Here's a real barking dog. You want to bark for all the audience out there?
The barking dog, right here.
Any other time you'd bark, you don't want to bark now. What's up with this? All right, the barking dog, and Eric hit his. As Eric, you had the New England Patriots. They beat the Miami Dolphins. You're 2-0, and I had the Indianapolis Colts, and not only did the Colts would have covered anyway as a barking dog,
Yes.
but they missed a field goal from 60 yards, and Denver had a penalty. He's trying to tear up the locker room now, I believe. So anyway, so after a penalty on Denver, the Colts got to kick it again with no time and actually won the game straight up. So you and I both won our barking dogs yesterday,
So you're 1-1,
and you're 2-0.
but I'm hot. I'm hot because of my dog being named after my dog.
That's right.
I'm on fire. But
All right, we're gonna let you start off for your barking dog
this
this
segment,
week.
and I'm sorry. You know why the Steelers lost last week? It's because I wanted them to win.
Oh, is that what it was?
So I put the jinx on them. The only reason I wanted them to
Okay.
win, we had some friends go up there that we spent the weekend with. They did WVU, and then they went to Pittsburgh.
My brother and
your brother
sister-in-law
did it
that
as
as well, right?
And I wanted them to win. So this is my dog of the week: Pittsburgh Steelers.
Wow.
They go get the win. New England Patriots. Pittsburgh plus 1.5 on the road. Go in and get the win.
You see what I wrote down before? This is what I wrote for you. You see what I wrote? I have the same one. But let me tell you, folks, I was debating between Dallas, Chicago. Actually, I said that Dallas was the favorite. I think Chicago is the
Chicago, I think.
Chicago is a slight favorite. I misspoke on that. That's what was making me thinking. And I think Dallas is going to win this game straight up. I know Eric following Dallas, and when you're a fan, you're invested.
Yeah.
You're thinking, well, this is a game where they use
This
but I just think Dallas is a better team, and I think Dallas will find a way. But I couldn't quite pull the trigger on it. I've also got Pittsburgh because I think Pittsburgh will bounce back and win this game straight out, getting a 1.5. So we actually do think alike most of the time.
We do, and people need to know we don't discuss that.
We do not.
This is one we don't discuss. So look for Maris to get back on the winning track and me to go 3-0, baby.
Yeah. So right now, through 4 picks, Eric, we're 3-1 combined.
Hey, yeah, lay that fake Monopoly money on
if
these
you're
barking
gambling,
dogs.
that's a tip. All right. We have a shout out to the producer and director, Regina Thomas, does a fabulous job as always. Before we say our goodbyes, you have to do what, Eric?
You have to like, share, subscribe. Warden Broadcast Network, YouTube, and follow us on Facebook.
We also appreciate Winterworld being one of our sponsors, Pasquale's also one of our sponsors, and Modley's Plumbing and Heating. So for the podcast, you may not agree with us,
But
I'm Maris Lowery.
and I'm Eric Thomas.
Till next time, have a great evening.